We do have now Scott Lingamfelter from the 11th District.
Delegate Scott Lingamfelter, candidate for the Republican nomination for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you for joining us today.
How are you, sir? Good to hear you.
What inspired you to get in this race? What was the big inspiration?
Well, I don't know that there was a huge inspiration. Things are as they appear to be. I've been in the legislature now for 11 years. I was in the Army, career Army officer, retired as a colonel after 28 years. So I've got a fair amount of leadership experience in my kit bag. And I've been down in Richmond now for several years, and one of my fundamental principles is do well what's in front of you, and next will tend to take care of itself. And what does that really mean? It means that you have to really focus and learn your skill sets and get them right. And when you get them right, then you're in a place where you can look for more leadership opportunity to apply some of the things that you would like to see done at the state level. When I first got down to Richmond as a freshman, even though I was 52 years old, 51 years old at the time, I had a lot to learn. And you just don't show up on the street and understand how Virginia works. And as a conservative, there's a lot in Richmond that I wanted to change. And one of the key things that I've been focused on over the last 10 years is get these programmatic audits through the state legislature. I like to say there's no such thing as a self-butchering hog. The government is not going to cut itself. You have to have a forcing function. You have to bring in an outside set of eyes. And so, John, to a certain extent, one of the things that I have learned is that statewide officers can have a huge impact. Their ability to lead, their ability to convene, their ability to cast a big vision. And I tried for 8 years to get these audits through, and I couldn't even get Republicans, even conservatives, in some cases, to vote for them. But when Bob McDonnell ran for office, and I asked him to put this in his platform, to his credit, he did. And when he became governor, he took my bills. We got them passed. And what did we find right away? $1.4 billion sitting idle in VDOT. The money is there. We don't have to raise taxes, but we have to be diligent. So a big lesson learned for me, to put a cap on this, John, is statewide officials can have a huge impact if they are willing to expend their political capital to do what needs to be done to help Virginia be the conservative state we can be, to help families and small businesses by not raising taxes and not being profligate, if you will, in our spending.
Delegate Lingamfelter, question I've got to ask is, you were at the the Republican Annual Convention Advance this weekend. We were excited because there was a lot of young people there, but one of the things that was oddly noticeable is the lack of diversity in that group. There was about 500 people there. There were only a handful were African American. I could count them on a hand. One of them is actually an employee for the Republican Party of Virginia. So that maybe leaves 4 others. Other than my vice president of sales, Andy Villarraga, we couldn't find an Hispanic beyond him. So not a lot of diversity there. You represent, more of a rural district in Virginia. What are you going to do to reach out to different minorities and increase the appeal of the GOP to blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and others?
Well, John, that is a very good question, and let me put a little more definition on the kind of district that I actually have. My district, which is the 31st House District, I would say there's some real diversity there. And I have won in that district 6 times, actually 7 times when you consider the first race I ran was a 3-way primary, and I won with 54% of the vote, 53%. But that district is diverse. More diverse than people realize. I mean, it's more rural out to the west, but toward the Dale City area, it's certainly more diverse. Let me tell you how I won. I won, and this is a lesson to Republicans, I think. I won by having a consistent and credible and authentic conservative record that I did not run away from. And the second piece is, and I think this is where our party has failed, we have poorly articulated, John, the proposition that conservatism creates opportunity and success. I have never met a woman or a Hispanic or an Asian or an African American who doesn't want to be successful. I mean, in the main, people want to be successful. And one of the things that we must do is talk about the core ability of conservatism and conservative values and conservative governance and fiscal conservatism to help people be successful in business, in their family life, and certainly in protecting our constitutional rights. Now, we have not articulated that very well at all. If you look at African American families, many of those families are very conservative in their outlook in life. They're church-going folks. They care a lot about their kids. Same way in the Hispanic community. This is, in my view, John, this is a natural opportunity for a well-articulated and keenly focused argument on the importance of conservatism, not only to people who consider themselves traditional Republicans, but all people who want to be successful. That's the key. And we have not made that case. We just haven't done it. I'm going to do it.
Delegate Lingamfelter, this is editorial director Steve Ray, John's co-host, and I know that you are on the Chesapeake Bay Commission. And quite frankly, when it comes to environmental issues, especially when it comes to offshore drilling, especially off the coast of Virginia, that conservatives really don't have a clear and practical idea of how to relate to environmental issues. Can you address that as it concerns your positions, your policies?
That is a super question, and I tell you why. I am on the Bay Commission, and I care a lot about the Bay. And when I was first put on the Bay, I guess it was close to 6-7 years ago, on the Bay Commission, one of the things that I articulated, and everybody knows I'm conservative, and I went on that thing, and people said, oh my gosh, here's this conservative, he's going to be difficult to work with. Let me tell you something. I think I've had a tremendous impact on the Bay Commission. One of the things that I have driven home to them is this. When you begin to articulate about how cleaning up the Bay has a direct nexus to creating jobs and opportunity in the seafood industry and in recreation and in many other areas where you are beginning to really create vitality that keeps young kids who live in the northern neck and the middle neck and the peninsula area to stay where they grew up and get involved in those industries and get involved in those businesses, then you have done a great work. Now, I was one of the guys that said you also have to focus on the real problems. And one of the key problems was the point source pollution, that is, from the different sewage sites around the state. There was huge bang for the buck in getting those things brought up to the new levels of technology. And guess what it did? It created jobs and opportunity because people were out there actually hiring companies to come in and improve the discharge, which all Virginians want. Virginians don't want garbage going in to their water. And so what I've been able to do on the Chesapeake Bay Commission is articulate the conservative view, not the sort of extremism that shows up from the left wing and environmental people who don't even want you to float on the waters of the bay, much less fish in it or earn your living from it. So I think that's the key.
You've found a proper balance between those issues and being able to allow the great resources of the Commonwealth continue to be available to outdoorsmen and sportsmen and so forth, which is terrific.
It's our right. And I would tell you, I was also the founder of the Sportsman's Caucus. And I got to tell you, I am huge into hunting and fishing. I believe that is vital, not only because it's a constitutional right in Virginia. By the way, a lot of people don't realize that that is a articulated constitutional right in our Constitution of Virginia. But secondly, it is vital to bring young people and the next generation into this tremendous culture of hunting and fishing so that they can appreciate the environment. I don't know anybody who is more practically focused and practically balanced on taking care of our environment than people who use it to hunt and fish. I know of no group that is more devoted to that.
All right, before I hand you back to John, you have a great military background. Of course, you're on the House Appropriations Committee and handle militia, police, and public safety. Does the Commonwealth have a large safety problem, or is that infrastructure pretty well funded and developed?
Well, I think from a public safety viewpoint, if that's your question, that your question?
Yes, sir.
I think we're in pretty good shape. We have done a lot to increase our presence within the state police. We've done, I think, quite a bit in Homeland Security. I think we've done quite a bit in helping our deputies. We have our prisons are well run. I think we have a fairly good judicial system that works well and is responsive to the needs of people. There's always stuff we can do better. I have a study in right now that's looking at the real level of emergency preparedness across Virginia. And there's some areas, quite frankly, at the local levels where we need some real improvement because we have not properly integrated the whole piece from federal to state and local. And you have to do that in the Homeland Security emergency management business. At the same time, you have to protect the privacy and rights of people. And so this, again, and you use the word, and it's so germane, is you have to keep balance.
Yeah.
Delegate, here's just one of the reality questions for your campaign I've got to ask. You know, the Republicans are getting annihilated in Northern Virginia this past election by over 200,000. It's only going to get worse. How does a Scott Lingamfelter get up there to Northern Virginia, and how do your policies play? How do you close that 200,000 vote gap?
Well, I would tell you, John, what Scott Lingamfelter's view is. And I say this tongue-in-cheek, so put some quotes around this. Commit truth. I think that one of the great deficits of the postmodern political era on both sides of the aisle is we have political leaders who are afraid to tell the truth and to level with people. You know, one of the realities of the emergence of the Tea Party movement, which I'm very close to, in the Commonwealth of Virginia and across the nation, is many people are just fed up with their leadership not leveling with them. If you look at the debt crisis that's going on, this is clownish, John. What's going on in Washington? This is clownish. And people want the debt dealt with. They're not looking for bumper stickers. They're at a place where they can say, look, tell me the bad news. Let's get it done right. Let's quit playing games and acknowledge the fact once and for all. And I say this as a budget hawk, and I was put on the Appropriations Committee to be a budget hawk. That's why we took Virginia's budget back to 2008 and 2010 levels in subsequent budgets here recently. People realize we have a spending problem. We do not have a tax problem. And we need to quit playing games with people about it and say, look, a government big enough to give you everything you want.
Delegate Scott Lingamfelter, what a time. We want to thank you for joining us today.